what can we expect next month? Another big pump? Another leg up? Well, according to this model, yes. We are projected to hit 45,000 this November. Especially if we get some good news, like that SEC battle versus Ripple. If that concludes, we could definitely get a big pump. If we get a spot Bitcoin ETF approval, definitely get a big bump. But yeah, according to the mid-cycle Fibonacci phases, okay, according to this, if you're looking at all the phases within every cycle, if you look at what Bitcoin has done in the past and what it's currently doing, well, this projects that Bitcoin will hit $45,000 sometime in November, maybe mid-November, late November. But if we're using history as a guide, this is where we are, going up to the halving event. And then, you know what, things get really, really explosive. If you discount everything else that's going on in the macro, you know, in a macro perspective or a micro perspective, and you ignore all the volatility of the markets and Fed and everything else, if you ignore all that and you just look at how Bitcoin's moving this cycle versus last cycles, it's very, very similar, almost no deviations. So you can make an argument that Bitcoin is just moving according to plan, like it always has. 45,000 could be in the works from where we are. That's not too unreasonable to think about. 45,000. We're like 34,000. So it's 10,000 bump from here. If we get a spot Bitcoin ETF, we're going to get that 10,000 bump immediately in the same day. I don't think that is far-fetched. Year to date, S&P 500, NASDAQ versus Bitcoin up 100%, over 100%. NASDAQ up 30%, S&P up 9% or 10%, right? I have a feeling this is a little outdated because NASDAQ took a big dump yesterday. So, but my point is this. Bitcoin is definitely the best that we have, okay? If you want to opt out of our current financial situation and you want to hold on to the best appreciating asset there is, well, look no further than Bitcoin, right? Flight to quality, flight to safety, flight to gains, okay? Go with Bitcoin. Now, we know Bitcoin had a big jump recently, right? Obviously, I think people, you know, this is the thing with crypto. People get used to a certain level really, really quickly. I could tell because right now the live viewers tuning in is way lower than a few days ago when Bitcoin first came above to about $34,000, right? Like, people just get used to it so quickly, and the enthusiasm just dies off just days afterwards. But I think people forget that just last week, I have to zoom out, just last week, we were all the way down here. We were down here, and now we're up here, and somehow the enthusiasm wore off. That's just not right. That's not right. But, you know, unfortunately, crypto is 24/7, and people stare at their phones all day long, and that's what happens. But man, we had a tremendous climb up already, but it's not over. Even October isn't over. October is not over. We still have a week to go. But now there is an expert trader, okay, that says Bitcoin bottom is in and to anticipate a new all-time high in Q3 of 2024. So that's a year from now. Not this quarter, obviously, not this Q3. This is Peter Brandt. I remember him back in the day. He would tweet out about Bitcoin. He got very negative and then turned pro and then got negative again. He's been charting and tweeting Bitcoin for years now. Just looking at this, the drawdowns for Bitcoin from peak, you know, goes a little bit lower every single time. So next time around in 2026, 2027, the drawdown could be only 70% or 65%. There'll probably be a drawdown, but it's going to be a lot less than now. But anyways, if you look at this, basically, according to him, you know what? We're probably not going to see a new all-time high until Q3 of 2024, which actually makes a whole lot of sense because that's months after the halving event. And normally speaking, that's when Bitcoin really starts moving. We're probably not going to shatter 70,000 until sometime in Q3 of next year. That's less than a year from now. So definitely not time to be fearful. It's time to be greedy. I've been saying that for a month now. Again, Bitcoin is just moving according to plan, but we have so much goodness to look forward to. Here's another look, how Bitcoin moves in these bases, right? We're moving off from base 1, moving to base 2, right? Base 2 is actually projected anywhere from 36,000 45,000, which would equate to the previous model showing us hitting 45,000. And then the next one's between 57 and 73. And then the next one, 119 to 150. And finally, the asterisk is where we may end up topping out in November, December 2025 around 210 and 240,000. There's a lot of models that predict that. If you bought around 25,000 recently, 26,000, that's almost a 10x move. Even from today's level, it's still like a 8x move. That's still tremendous upside, right? That's left on the table. So don't be giving up on Bitcoin. What else is there? I did see this Bitwise. They got their Bitcoin spot ETF ticker. It's going to be BITB. Of course, everyone else got one. Grayscale got one. Well, they already have one, but BlackRock has one. I think ARK has one. Bitwise has one. I mean, there's like 10 different SPY ETFs ready to go. Ready to go. They're making some amendments, which means they've been getting feedback already from the SEC. Okay, so we're right there. We got the symbol. We got the amendments to change whatever they asked for. We will get approval soon. Very, very soon. Hopefully it's also in November. There is a deadline in November too. So maybe we get it in November. If we don't get it in November, then we have to wait until January. But man, I think there's like a 50-50 chance now that it could be in November. If not, just a couple more months. It's okay. You know what? Something that we haven't ever, I take the ever back. Something that we haven't looked at for a very long time is the fear and greed index. Remember during those scary, scary moments of 2022 and 2023 when fear dropped down to 10 or 11 or 12, right? And a lot of you guys kept asking for it. Like, show me the fear index, right? Well, now we have reverse. But here's the funny thing. Right now it's at 71. Yesterday it was 72. But just last week we were in neutral at 52. Again, shows you how fast or how quickly sentiment can change. And last month, we were still in fearful levels, guys. Right? A lot of people were still calling for Bitcoin to drop lower back to 20,000 or something like that before reverse. But I told you guys to stay strong. There's no 100%ness to like, oh, it has to drop to this level before going there, right? Although a lot of chartists will tell you that. But, Bitcoin moves the way it wants. If traders start putting in money, if institutions start putting money, it's going to go up. It's that simple, right? You can't ignore, I guess, the macro environment and short-term environment